Yo. All right. So here's the deal. I am in the studio. I live about 12 Elliott golf shots away from the studio. So I can come in whenever I want, God willing, as long as, and by God willing, I mean Mariana willing. I come in and I said, listen, this is big news. And we talked to the people in our Discord. We talked to people that like Chatterbox content. They said, we want more Chatterbox Bengals. We want you guys to go live, a la Chatterbox Reds. I guess I just got to sit in the shadow that is Nick Kirby and Trace Fowler for my entire life. But so be it. They're nice shadows. Casey McAllister, Reed Mouse. Guys, I am in my PJs. Look at this. I am in plaid PJs. I am not wearing underwear. When I get home, I drop my drawers every single time. My wife says it's the best thing I do, if you know what I'm sitting at. Guys, big news here for the Chatterbox Bengals, or for the Bengals, period. They have lost their offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan. This was a move that we kind of saw coming, right? Like anyone that had their ear to the floor, that is the Cincinnati Bengals, for long enough time, they knew that at some point Brian Callahan was going to get a job. He comes from good pedigree. He's done a fantastic job. Some might say even though he doesn't call the plays for the Cincinnati Bengals, he has been the author of what has been two of the greatest offensive seasons in Cincinnati Bengals franchise history. That was when they went to the Super Bowl, went to the AFC Championship game. The previous 2 years, not this one. This one is what it is. Although you might say that it is the best offensive coordinator job. The fact that someone choreographed this team to go 9-8, despite not having their star player, despite playing one of the toughest schedules in league history. I'm not going to use that as an excuse too much longer, but I'm going to use it here tonight. Casey, what is your instant reaction from the Bengals offensive coordinator, previous offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan, taking the job of the Tennessee Titans?
Well, Reed, you actually sparked a really good analogy in my mind of what Brian Callahan was to this team. He was the ghostwriter for a very talented
Ghostwriter.
rapper. Yeah, he's a ghostwriter. I mean, he's the guy behind the scenes writing down the lyrics. Doesn't have the talent to actually rap it or to put it into reality. But he was the guy that choreographed and made the scheme, right? He was the guy that was probably making all the scripted plays at the beginning of games, the stuff that was very successful for the Bengals on offense, usually throughout this year. Now, that being said, he never actually called the plays, I don't think.
That's right.
And that's fine. I think that he's going to have a great career in Tennessee because I think he's got the actual fundamentals or the where they want to go. Whatever the scheme is, they're going to have something there for Will Levis in the future there. They're going to get that offense looking right. And I don't know if he's going to be calling plays. I assume that he will want to try to take up that mantle, do something very similar to what Zach Taylor does, and maybe bring in a guy to help game plan and do the scheming alongside him. We'll see. But I'm very, very happy for him. Very thankful that he was here and appreciate all the work that he did for us because it's some of the best Bengals seasons we've had.
No, that's right. And I see, I've certainly made jokes. I see some people in the chat. By the way, there's a guy in the chat. His name's Joe Wetton. If you're watching this, you have anyone watching this has all of my approval to give Joe Wetton as much crud as you possibly can. That guy stinks. But here's the thing about Brian Callahan. A lot of Bengals fans will dunk on it, right? Because the one thing, we talked about this on Off the Bench today. We'll talk about it probably tomorrow. We'll probably talk about it every time we talk about the Bengals for the next 10 years, is that people don't like the play call. Oh, what's the play call? What's with the play call? It's the most tired thing that football fans have. Sometimes it's well warranted, right? And that's what makes it not a moot point, is that sometimes it is true. sometimes the play call is bad. But it's also just this like abstract thing. Oh, I don't like the play call. And there's a lot of Bengals fans that will look at what has happened this past year and when the Bengals offense hasn't been firing on all cylinders, and they'll say, well, what's the play call? Reminder, Zach Taylor calls the plays, but as Casey brought up, as I brought up, Brian Callahan, he's the scheme guy, right? He's just as important to the week leading up to the games as Zach Taylor is, as Dan Pitcher is, as we'll talk about here in a second. So this is a major loss for the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't want you guys to look at this, because I know some people wanted change. They wanted a new play caller. They wanted a new OC. They wanted all these things, which I'm not saying I'm not on that side. But this is another hole, another loss for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I'm gonna tease this. I think that, and I think if you've been on Twitter with any Bengals guy, you'll see that it seems like the Bengals have already filled that hole. But in an offseason that may be the most important offseason in this young Joe Burrow era, this is another hole that they have to fill. And they have to get it right. That's the most important thing. It's another area that they have to get right. And you could argue in an offseason where T. Higgins is gone, maybe. Where Tyler Boyd is gone, probably. Where DJ Reader, where Awuzie is gone, where Jonah Williams is gone. This is the role that they have to get right the most. Because if they do this wrong, it trickles down to the rest of the offense, which is what we all love about this Bengals future. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, a few more years of Joe Mixon, maybe another year of T. Higgins, right? All these young wide receivers. This is what we like about the Cincinnati Bengals. They have to get this right. But I will say this. Thank you, Brian Callahan. Truly, truly. As a Cincinnati Bengals fan, thank you. You might not have always gotten the credit that you have deserved, but you have just been as much a part of this team as really any other major, maybe not to the effect of Joe Burrow, not saying that, maybe not to the effect of Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, but right up there with this team that has gotten us to the Super Bowl, that has gotten us to the AFC Championship game in back-to-back years. All the things that we hang our hat on as Cincinnati Bengals fans. Brian Callahan was a recipe, was an ingredient in that recipe. And maybe he's the ladle, right? Maybe he's the ladle stirring the whole thing, but he is as much a part of this offense, as much a part of this team as anybody else has been, with the inclusion of the guys that I named over the past few years.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, we have that hole to fill, and we're looking at Dan Pitcher as the guy, the quarterback's coach, and he has been around for a while. I mean, he's been around since before the Zach Taylor era, I believe. I think since 2016 he's been in the Bengals organization, and they really like this guy. He was studying underneath Alex Van Pelt. I was incorrect today on the show. I thought that Dan Pitcher actually went and coached Aaron Rodgers. That was incorrect. It was actually Alex Van Pelt that was the quarterback's coach for Aaron Rodgers way back in the day. He's been here for a while. Clearly, the ownership likes him. Otherwise, they wouldn't have kept him around. Same with Zach Taylor. They must really like him because he's been able to stick around through the Marvin Lewis era, at least. And on top of that, he's coached one of the greatest quarterbacks in our game today, Joe Burrow. And he's made Joe Burrow better and better each season. I know this year might not have been what many people desired, but there was a moment in time this year that we thought Joe Burrow had taken another step forward with the way that he was able to command this offense on the play action runs, things of that nature, being able to step around, avoid pressure and things of that nature. So I'm all about Dan Pitcher being the OC. I think the conversation really goes to most Bengal fans are okay with it, but they would love to have a new, fresh set of eyes
Mm-hmm.
other than Dan Pitcher. And I know that it's a little meaningless to talk about these other names. It's a little, it doesn't really matter in the end because we kind of already know what the result is with this Bengals franchise. But
Right.
it is fun to kind of speculate as to who they might bring in other than Dan Pitcher because maybe they get a hair up their ass and think we should bring in a new set of eyes. So, do you want to talk about the new names or do you want to talk
Well,
about Dan
well,
Pitcher?
here's I want to talk about Dan Pitcher for a second. Obviously, he's been a Bengals lifer. He's been a part of this thing for a while, and this was always, and this is what everyone's saying, right? This is the it's Dan Pitcher's job if he wants it. And he's been
Right.
he's been having calls. He's been interviewing for other OC jobs. There is a scenario in which Dan Pitcher follows Brian Callahan to the Tennessee Titans. To that, I will argue, how do you want to start your offensive coordinator duties? Do you want to do it with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow? Or do you want to do this with Will Levis and whatever the Tennessee Titans are going to do down there? So I don't think that's a serious thing. And unless Brian Callahan says, hey, Dan Pitcher, you can call the plays, which he's probably not going to get that opportunity here in Cincinnati. Thing I'll say about Dan Pitcher, I saw Jacob Tissett put this in, and before I get to this, Michael Rolfe, $10 super chat, says, Bengals need a pitcher more than the Reds do. Ha ha. Michael, hey, dad joke of the night. Dad joke of the night. Congratulations, Michael. Congratulations on dad joke of the night. Thank you so much. Like the stream, guys. Jacob Tissett put this in, and Jacob Tissett's obviously no stranger to Chatterbox Sports. He brings great takes. He's very educated. He said, my thing with pitcher is I'd be more upset if he leaves and is great than if he stays and is a bust hire. That's the one in the hand is worth two in the bush argument, right? It would sting. It really would sting if Dan Pitcher takes one of these other offensive coordinator opportunities and is a fantastic OC. And we would say, well, we had this guy right here. Why wasn't he ours? That's more than a fair take. But I think outside perspective is always very, very crucial to anything you're doing, anything that you're building. Here at Chatterbox Sports, it's always nice to get a fresh set of eyes on something before you do it, right? You get so close in your ecosystem, whether it's your life, whether it's your work, whether it's your family, you get so close in your ecosystem. Sometimes, and it can be jarring at times, sometimes you want to get a new set of eyes on whatever you're doing. That's the phrase that I use today. That's the phrase that we've thrown in the chat. That's the phrase that you've said, the new set of eyes. But it's true. You want to get somebody with an outside perspective to look at what you're doing and say, ooh, I like this, or ooh, I don't like that. And if you got enough sound heads, you take what's good and you take what's bad and you make a fantastic offense. And while Dan Pitcher, he's going to be our OC more than likely, I, as a Cincinnati Bengals fan, would just like somebody new to come in. And it doesn't have to be an OC. It can be to replace Dan Pitcher's job as the quarterback's coach and say, hey, I want to come in. I've got this. I worked under Kyle Shanahan. I want to show you this new offense. Or I worked under Andy Reid. I want to show you this offense. All right, we do this well over here. I think that would be so constructive into an offense, into a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase offense that, as we all can agree, Casey, as we all can agree, has not met its full potential yet.
Right, I agree. I agree with that sentiment 100%. Like I said, I brought it up on the show. I would love to have a new set of eyes on this offense because I think we see as fans that potential for a top tier offense. And yes, we are a very high powered offense, but it could be taken another step forward. I think we all agree with that, with a little tweaking to our scheme here and there. I just wanted to look up really quickly. Dan Pitcher has interviewed for New England, OC, Raiders OC, and New Orleans OC jobs in the last couple of days here, the last
So
week or so.
he'll take our job is what you're saying.
Yeah, out of those potential jobs, I think that he has the more he has a better chance of succeeding here in Cincinnati, especially staying in the same system. You're not changing anything up, but at the same time, in that same breath, maybe that's why he wants to leave, is so then he can actually call plays like a normal OC can, change it up a system to where it's his system. It's not a combination of Zach Taylor and pitcher, or something that's not already established. That's also another case, and another situation where maybe this isn't the best spot for him. I don't know that. I'm just speaking in terms of hypotheticals here. I'm just speaking what possibilities are out there in existence. I expect him to be signed because I think everyone does. He was extended here for a reason last year. Otherwise, they would have let him walk to Tampa Bay last year as their OC, which, could you imagine that? Baker Mayfield and Dan Pitcher? That would have been something. So, yeah, I mean, in one vein, I'm like, 75% okay with this move, because a lot of the sentiment that Jacob said in the chat earlier, I don't want him to succeed elsewhere. I'd rather him be viewed as a bust here, I guess,
Right.
because
As Jacob said.
Yeah. Now, in terms of what you were talking about, what guys you could bring in, I actually have listed here in one of my notes here for one of the guys that I thought might be worth coming in, was Clint Kubiak. Now, you might remember that last name, Gary Kubiak, the son of Gary Kubiak. He's been under the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan system for a while. 36-year-old. He is the offensive game coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yep.
I think he also game planned for Brock Purdy as well. He was a run game coordinator, I believe. So that being said, a guy that comes from that system that made Christian McCaffrey one of the most explosive running backs in the NFL, was able to free him on runs consistently every single game. I would love to have those set of eyes in. There's just a ton of different candidates here I have listed here. I've got like 7 different ones. We don't have to go through all of them, but that is one of them that you mentioned, someone from the outside that's not a well-known name that I look at and go, I wouldn't mind bringing him in over Dan Pitcher. It wouldn't kill me. I mean,
right. Well, before we get on to this, because you have a lot more names than ever I would, I brought up one name that's probably on your list. Michael Rolfe says, interesting question. $10 super chat. Who did the Titans draft at number 7? Callahan was very influential and chased over Penei Sewell. I bet they go a wide receiver, LSU guy, Washington guy, or Harrison, or Brock Bowers at 7. Book it. Here's the thing about it obviously worked for the Cincinnati Bengals. Although you can say that, like, would the Bengals still be pretty dang good if they had no Jamar Chase and had Penei Sewell? Yeah, they'd still be pretty good because Penei Sewell's an all-pro, and we knew that, but we wanted the all-pro wide receiver over that. The thing about wide receiver is more and more there is a lot of wide receiver talent going into the NFL, and there's less and less cornerback talent going into the NFL. People want their names that you score touchdowns and stuff like that, not so much on the other side of the ball. So I don't know how much longer wide receiver is going to be the ultimate luxury of a quarterback, because for the last half decade to a decade, that has been the greatest luxury to a quarterback, is having a one-of-one wide receiver. As more and more talent floods the gates into the NFL, I'm not sure how much that's going to be the case. So I don't know what Brian Callahan's going to do down there in Tennessee. I think that's an interesting thought. If you got Will Levis and you believe in Will Levis, this is a guy that Brian Callahan's going to be inheriting. So maybe that's not a guy Brian Callahan wants. He might give him a year and say, all right, this is your year. We're going to go get somebody else in the draft next year. But yeah, that certainly could be the case. That has been the proven formula in the NFL as of late to go and get a wide receiver to pair with your young quarterback. So yeah, that's an interesting thought. Before you get into the names, you already threw Kubiak. Let's pronounce his name right. Was I right? Was I right?
Kubiak.
Yeah, Kubiak. The one name that 92 Slurps in the chat. Love you, 92 Slurps. That we'll throw around. And that's Joe Brady. So he is the interim OC over for the Buffalo Bills. He became the OC right around the time that they started trending in the right direction. It looked like the hottest team in football. They ran the ball a lot better. They weren't as reliant on Josh Allen. But the real reason, let's be honest, guys. The real reason that you want Joe Brady is because he was on that LSU team. And I get it. Guys, I get it. Joe Burrow was on that 2019 LSU team, which might be the greatest college football team ever. Certainly, Joe Burrow had one of, if not the greatest quarterback season ever. Then there's Jamar Chase. That was a part of that too. Joe Brady was the wide receivers coach on that team?
Passing game coordinator.
I get it. Trust me, I get it. But it is now the year of our Lord, 2024. We can't be hanging on our hat what happened in college football 5 years ago. And I don't want to keep doing this thing. And I know it will continue being a thing because their names are so associated with Louisiana State University Tigers in that 2019 season, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. I don't want to keep doing this thing where we're trying to get the band back together, right? Joe Brady, Justin Jefferson's going to come to the Bengals. We had Thaddeus Moss for a little while. Next, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be the next running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. All these things, I get it. We want to recreate what has happened, but it feels a little tired to me. I don't know what you think about Joe Brady coming and being the offensive coordinator. That doesn't seem like a new set of eyes.
No, I don't think that it's a good idea at all. Personally, I think you look at what happened just this last weekend. And yes, Josh Allen, he took over that game, but Joe Burrow is not Josh Allen. He is not going to be able to perform that option in their RPOs like Josh Allen was able to.
Not the same offense. Return.
It's not the same offense. And on top of that, Josh Allen, bless his heart. I mean, we all thought that he had a great game, but he threw all of his passes that were completed behind 10 yards. And 16 of those were behind the line of scrimmage. Is that the type of offense that you want? Do you want Stephon Diggs did the last 8 weeks of the season? Nothing. He was just gone. Disappeared. Do you want Jamar Chase to disappear? I certainly don't. I think that's a very important part of this team. With Joe Brady being the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, I think we would see something very similar happen where it's a lot of dinking and dunking, and yes, it's being very safe, very cautious, and heaven knows maybe Joe Burrow would be more efficient that way too. Maybe they would unlock that sort of screen game that they did earlier on this season with Browning. But I don't think I want that as my future offense going forward. Mm-hmm. You saw what the Chiefs did. I mean, they basically shut everyone down except for Josh Allen running the ball. And heaven forbid Joe Burrow start running the football. We already talked about how he's injury prone, which I think is a stupid term, but yeah, I'm not about that. Joe Brady is out for me. I don't want that nonsense moving forward. And I also had another list name here that was associated with him, Joe Moorhead, that I saw was floating out there as a potential OC in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that taught Joe Brady everything that he knows before he went to LSU. So yeah, those two guys I think are going to be good NFL coordinators somewhere in this league, but not for the Bengals.
Yeah, the Joe Brady thing. Listen, I said this on the show today, and I know I'm doing this show where we're talking about potential targets for offensive coordinator, even though I think we all know that it's already wrapped up in Dan Pitcher, so we'll see what that brings, is I don't feel strongly about any of it. Like, there's not a guy out there that this is our guy. Even Dan Pitcher. I don't feel very strongly in any new direction. All I want, because I think collaboration is so important into success, I just want a fresh set of eyes. You'll hear that phrase a lot over the next few days till we get Dan Pitcher officially signed as the new offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. But you'll hear fresh set of eyes, and that's okay. 92 Slurps, we weren't teasing on you about the Joe Brady stuff. We just have seen that name thrown around, and we're bringing it out, right? He wasn't very good in Carolina. He was very good for the Buffalo Bills in the second half of this year. But Josh Allen and Joe Burrow are two completely different players. So am I saying that he's a one-trick pony? Obviously not, because he was the passing game coordinator for the 2019 LSU Tigers. I don't want to over-romanticize those 2019 LSU Tigers. That's all I'm saying. I get it. That was Joe's perhaps finest moment to this point. And I get it. Jamar Chase was there. It was beautiful. It was a truly beautiful thing on the football field. But I just don't want to over-romanticize. If we're still in the year 2026 and we're talking about getting Justin Jefferson over to Cincinnati because we're getting the band back together, while that would be great, let's be honest, guys. Let's just be honest. This ain't college football. I don't know.
I agree.
Give me another name on there. Tell me the most divisive or the most appealing name that you have on your list.
Okay, so one name that I think is very, very controversial, and I don't even really think it helps necessarily after thinking about it a little bit. But Cliff Kingsbury is currently an offensive assistant at USC currently, and if you don't know Cliff Kingsbury, he was originally a head coach for the Air Cardinals. Helped Kyler Murray win Offensive Rookie of the Year, worked with Patrick Mahomes. He's worked with guys like Johnny Manziel, Caleb Williams. He's basically the quarterback whisperer, quarterback guru. And we might not need a quarterback guru per se, but I do think that he is a great offensive mind, a guy that is very, very well versed in offensive passing game schemes, which I think is another weakness of ours. Like, we are very basic in a lot of things. I know that many people want us to be able to run the ball better, but I do think that Cliff, if you were to hire him, would only make our strength a better, stronger strength. It would make it so that the passing attack would be more creative, I would say. I think that's probably my most controversial name I have on this list. One that, would go probably 50-50 either way that you look at it. He's either going to boom or he's going to really bust, right? That's the way you kind of look at that name and that philosophy.
Right.
But a name nonetheless, I think, should deserve some consideration.
Cliff Kingsbury. That is an interesting, because he made Kyler Murray look very good. He has made a lot of quarterbacks look good. He has also failed at a lot of places. How many times is Cliff Kingsbury going to fail upwards? Now, here's the thing about Cliff Kingsbury. When you talk about guys that have this offensive mindset, right? That the quote unquote fresh set of eyes is this young guy. Cliff Kingsbury was kind of the mold that all of them followed after. Right? This young, handsome guy. And this dude can score a lot of points. Ooh. And you should see what he's going to do to your quarterback. He's going to make him all-pro. He's going to make him a Heisman candidate. Cliff Kingsbury is not a very serious candidate in my opinion in this day and age.
He's one of the bottom of my the names of my list. You asked for controversial, I gave you controversial.
That was controversial. He's not. Listen, I don't want to do that. Let me put it this way: if Joe Burrow, the window that we talked about, some people think it's a little bathroom window, a little closet window. I think it's a large, beautiful bay window. The window of Joe Burrow's career. I don't want to be looking at a fire through that window, a dumpster fire that is this offense, and I do not want Cliff Kingsbury to be the author of that. I think that is way more risk than reward there. No Cliff Kingsbury. Get out of there.
All right, so here's the name that I think, if it's not Dan Pitcher, it has to be this guy, and it's Troy Walter, the Bengals receiver coach. I mean, he's been around since 2020. He's had his hand in developing guys like Jamar Chase, Andre, Charlie, Trent Irwin. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think he is the second in line for that position. Mm-hmm. I think that would be the guy right after Dan Pitcher and the guy that makes most sense if Dan Pitcher leaves. If they want to stay within the organization, I think he probably also deserves a chance to be an OC.
I don't want to keep doing the New England Patriots thing. Get it. That's a great franchise to model you off of. I don't want to keep just hiring people from within. The second that you think you have it figured out, the second that you think that you've got it all right in this clubhouse, right? Everything we need's right here. We just got to figure it out. The second you do that, you stop winning. The second that you think that you start giving jobs just because they've earned it, right? They've stuck with you. They've been loyal. That's when you stop winning. This is the biggest thing. And I know that Dan Pitcher's probably going to be the offensive coordinator. And I pray that in 2 years we look at it and go, that's a beautiful, beautiful hire. What a great decision that was to give Dan Pitcher this job. But I fear that if we keep hiring from within, you're not going to get the collaboration that it takes to constantly succeed in this league. That's all I'm worried about. Michael Rolfe with a $10 super chat. Don't care who the OC is. I just want a fresh start on offense, which was stagnant. Maybe it's that Taylor reworks play calling during the transition. Give me an OC that keeps Burrow healthy, please. And that's what's glorious about whoever takes this job is that they know that as long as that handsome blonde fella, Joe Burrow, not myself, that handsome blonde fella, number 9, Joe Burrow, as long as he stays upright, as long as Uno is out there running around in the field, the job's going to be pretty easy. At least on the surface level of making to the postseason, double-digit wins, all that good stuff. But as a team, this sounds crazy. I think as expectations behold, we're beyond that. We don't have the same expectations that we had 3 years ago. When Joe Burrow first came in, we were just looking for a playoff win. That's all we were looking for. Then we tasted it, and it tasted good. We beat the Raiders. We beat the Titans. We beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. And a few plays away from the Super Bowl. We go back the next year. Win the division again. Everyone thought we couldn't do it. We beat the Ravens at home. Oh, that was a lot of luck. Yeah. We go to Highmark Stadium. Beat the lauded Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Kicked their tail. And then we fell in the final few plays of the AFC Championship game. So I think that the expectations are a little higher. So while an OC can make his name here, while an OC can certainly go, hey, look, I was the offensive coordinator for this team, and Joe Burrow threw 100 touchdowns over a 3-year stretch and 13,000 yards and won 35 games and all that good stuff. The expectations are a little higher here. That's why I want a fresh set of eyes. So
got one more name for you. If you want
it.
someone that's a fresh pair of eyes, Darrell Bevell, the 50-year-old from Miami. He is their passing game coordinator, a guy that unlocked Tyreek Hill, someone that would easily be able to do the same thing with Jamar Chase. And we all know what that explosive offensive passing attack looked like. And if you could imagine what that would look like if it was Joe Burrow and not Tua, who folds under pressure quite a bit, I think you would have a very explosive offense that way as well. Very much the Cliff Kingsbury mold. This one's not as controversial, mainly because I think that this guy has been able to do it at a very high level with very high explosive talent, which is what we have here in Cincinnati. Now, whether you want to, whether you think that the Miami's offense is a little bit of a fraudy offense, I think it's more due to the players and the actual coaching staff there.
I think their quarterback's a fraud. I think their offense is more than good.
I think it's the scheme. I think it's the scheme that makes him really good. So if you were to take that scheme and apply it to Joe Burrow, I think that would be a very interesting combination as well. A very explosive offense for this team.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent name. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want here. I want something exciting. That's all I want. I just want something new. I like the hiring from within. I like the young guys. I like the exciting guys. So we'll see. Dan Pitcher's probably going to be our offensive coordinator. So we'll throw this in. Let's throw this. And we've overheld people because the UC Bearcats are playing the Kansas Jayhawks right now. But let's throw this hypothetical out there. All right? If Dan Pitcher's not the guy, if Dan Pitcher doesn't take this job, how high on the priority chart is this? And I'm not saying, like, this needs to get done before anything else. Not that priority chart. Like, how important is it to get this right as opposed to the other moves that lay in front of the Cincinnati Bengals?
Ooh, I think it's actually kind of important, mainly because I think that it shows that Zach Taylor should not be calling plays then, right? Like, if Dan Pitcher, who was set up to be the OC, the shoo-in, right? He's basically the guy.
It's his job if he wants it.
Right, it's his job if he wants it. If he decides not to, and we have candidates refusing the job or choosing other jobs because it's less desirable, I think that shows a lot. It shows that they don't have faith in Zach Taylor calling plays in their system, and I think that's a big deal. I don't know what you would do to alleviate that. I mean, there's no way to know until it starts happening, right? Until you're not able to hire someone, until you have the scraps to pick from. You just don't know. So in my mind, I think it's important that they find the right guy. It's always important to find the right guys. There's never a chance for these teams to be like, oh, we can afford to miss on this OC. They're too important. They're too important to the future of these teams and how they perform on offense or defense, if we're talking defensive coordinators and things of that nature. So for me, I think this is a very important hire. I think I mean, it's right there. It's Dan Pitcher, and I know we've probably hammered that down to these folks 100,000 times. But if there was that small chance, I think it would be a serious problem, to be honest with you. I think it would show a lot of different things.
Yeah, this is I say this without hyperbole. I think this is the most important thing that the Bengals have to get right this year. And they've already made their decision, from what it appears. If Dan Pitcher's not right, I think that is infinitely more important than what we do at the defensive tackle position. I think I don't think they can go necessarily, quote unquote, overly wrong in what they do with T. Higgins, whether it's tag and trade or whether it's keep T. Higgins around for another year. You can't, both alternatives are very good. Right tackles is the second most important thing that they have to solve. So yeah, I think it's right up there. I think it is the most important thing that the Bengals have to solve this year. So Casey, we held people over too long. I promised only 30 minutes. We've got 60 people in here. We've got 26 likes. Can you guys do me a favor? Can you guys do me and Casey a favor? Listen, if we don't get 50 likes, I think we're going to lose our jobs. You heard Casey's dog barking earlier. Casey's also got a wife. I've got a wife. We would like to continue being married. We would like to continue living in our homes. We would like to continue feeding our dogs. I would like to have kids at some point. I know Casey would as well. It all starts with keeping our jobs. So if you have liked this stream, please give it a like. Please. If you're new to this, give us a subscribe. We will be going live tomorrow, Casey and I. Casey's the lead producer. I just say stupid stuff over in the corner with our very own Elliot Rearing as Tom Brenneman hosts Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We appreciate doing this. Our plan, I mean, it's not a one-of-one plan, but we will continue to go live anytime big news like this drops. As the offseason progresses, we will probably do more of a regular show, like once or twice a week, and keep it going. We plan on having other voices. As I said, fresh set of eyes. We will have that here on Chatterbox Bengals. We just plan to bring you guys more content. That's all we really try to do. In conclusion, it seems like Dan Pitcher is going to be the offensive coordinator. Congratulations to Brian Callahan on becoming the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Another $9.99 super chat. Michael Rolfe, can you gents rank by position the most important needs to address in the offseason? First, ideally in free agency, then in the draft before you close out. Casey,
Ooh.
as I collect my thoughts, I think, as I mentioned, this isn't personnel. This isn't player-wise. I think that this offensive coordinator job is very crucial. I don't want to overstate it. It's going to be Dan Pitcher, but they really need to get this right, truly. In terms of personnel, I think right tackle, because I like keeping Joe Burrow healthy. I think right tackle is the most important position. I think interior defensive lineman's the second most important position. Third, I would then put another pass catcher, another weapon for Joe Burrow. Fourth, I would then put some leadership in the secondary. Someone, because I think it's going to be a very young secondary. I would like if we just had some reliable cornerback, Mike Hilton, Woozier, those kind of guys. And then finally, if you guys know me, I don't think very highly of the running back position. I don't think it's an overly valuable. I think you can go out and get guys and you do pretty well. So that's how I'd rank it. Right tackle, interior lineman, wide receiver, then some veteran safety or veteran secondary pieces, and then running back.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have very similar thoughts to that. Me and Reed align a lot of our thinking. We don't do it. We don't talk about this outside the show. We just kind of have a very similar thinking in terms of roster construction. Yeah, I think it's right tackle. You've got to protect Joe Burrow, and we've said that for years at this point, and it continues to be the number one priority until otherwise. And then it goes interior pass rusher. I think we've been missing that as well. I know we love BJ Hill. I know we love Sam Hubbard. But those guys, at some point, you got to look at the mirror. I mean, we've been screaming we need more pass rush help. We need more pass rush help. At some point, you got to say, well, these guys aren't cutting it. And or you need better depth. And at that point, right?
Before you finish your thought, that's we're not going to get into it here today, but everyone screams that the Bengals need more pass rush. They don't want to talk about how they get there. They love Sam Hubbard. They recognize Trey Hendrickson's a great pass rusher. Then they look around and go, well, who's the other edge rusher? Oh, that Sam Hubbard. Oh, but we love Sam. Everyone wants more pass rush. Nobody wants to talk about how we get there. That's beside the point. Continue yours.
Right. I mean, part of the reason too is these guys are playing almost 1,000 snaps every season, and that's just not sustainable long term at their ages at the current moment. Which is another reason why I'm like, probably time to maybe look at one of those guys being cut. And I hate saying that. I don't want that to happen, but at some point, got to look at having better pass rush help, and that includes even the starting roles, not just the backup roles. And then after that, it's probably for me pass catcher, which in my mind, I don't think T. Higgins is going to be the long-term answer. I think you might be able to franchise tag him, but I just don't see how they can have both T and Jamar without sacrificing too much else. So that being said, I think a second pass catcher is important, second string receiver. I don't know where they go. I would like to see maybe more speed. Like we haven't had a Hollywood Brown type guy. We haven't. The last time we tried that ended up really backfiring. I can't even. John Ross. We ended up picking John Ross instead of Patrick Mahomes in that draft. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
What a lovely pick that was.
What a lovely pick that was. Yeah, and then after that, just more veteran help on both sides of the ball. Whether that's a running back or if that's a corner or if that's a more depth on the offensive line or tight end, just more veteran help, I think is the fourth priority. So in conclusion, tackle, number one spot, pass rush help, interior edge rusher, both of those very important. Third, pass catcher. Fourth, veteran help. Those are our.
We're on the same. We're on the same page. Molly said that the Bengals need to get rid of Drew Sample.
Yikes! He's right there.
I don't even know if I'm doing this. I mean, he's behind me. He's who I have whenever I host this show. So, Molly, I love you too much to say. What a dumb comment. But what a dumb comment. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow. If you're new to us, please watch Off the Bench tomorrow. We welcome you. Don't please. I'm not going to beg. I'm not a beggar. I'm in my PJs, but I'm not going to beg you. We will be live on Off the Bench, hosted by Tom Brennan tomorrow. I believe Charlie Goldsmith's going to be on to talk about that. Brian Callahan going, and he'll probably hit home the things that we talked about that everyone's been talking about on Twitter. That is, Dan Pitcher's probably the guy. Michael Rolfe, I got to tell you, you're all pro in my book. Trey Hendrickson might not be all pro in the NFL, but you're all pro in my book. Thank you so much for the super chats. We love you so much. Give us some likes. Got up to 40 likes. We thank you so much. We had a lot of fun. Casey, thank you for hopping on. I sent you a text right when we found out the news and said, hey, let's do this thing. You said, hey, Reed, I'm already on board. I'll go right now. I said, hey, give me some more time. I need a little more time. So, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. I think the Cats, hopefully they're losing.
It's actually a really close game at the moment.
Ooh.
It's 27-30.
27-30. Chatterbox bets launched today. And Reed Mouse, 1-0. Elliott Rearing, 1-0. Casey McAllister, under 69.5. Cincinnati Bearcats, because you hate the city of Cincinnati. I'm not going to let you answer in on that. We'll see you guys tomorrow on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farms. But this is Chatterbox Bengals. We'll see you around. We'll let you know when we're going to go live. Probably whenever big news is going to happen. We'll let you know. See you guys. Till next time.
See you, everyone.